There's been some news that has come out of California yesterday. Not yesterday, actually. It came out about a week ago, but it went into effect yesterday, and I heard about it yesterday. And I'm pretty happy about it, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, because I am pretty pro-gun. While I am in favor of pretty significant restrictions and barriers to getting guns, I think it should be a process. I feel like if you can just kind of walk in and walk out, it's not really ideal, but you can't do that. The only scenario where you can walk in, get a gun, and walk out in like 10 minutes is if you're already a CWL or CCW permit holder. Then at that point, you've already gone through a rigorous federal background check you paid for, and so they've already done that. You've got a permit that says, I've been background checked, and so only then, in some states, are you able to walk in and walk out with a gun. Outside of that, it's a whole process with waiting times and all that shit in the vast majority of states. Even in, like, Florida, there's a 3-day waiting period. So, with that in mind, I'm in favor of, like, certain hurdles to getting a gun that verify that you're not an obviously malicious individual trying to get a gun. I think it's pretty reasonable that we don't let felons get guns. I think there should be an appeal process, since many felons were made felons for pretty bogus bullshit reasons. I think there should be a very easy to access and robust appeals process to regain your Second Amendment rights. However, I do like the fact that we don't let, like, felons and, like, violent criminals and what have you just get a gun or get a permit, right? I think that's good. I think that's fine. Moving on, though, here's something I don't like. Weird arbitrary laws that limit the capacity that you're allowed to have in your magazine. And that is what this story coming out of California relates to. Federal judge once again strikes down California's large capacity ammunition ban. Large capacity, by the way. They mean 30-round magazines. 30-round standard magazines. A federal judge with a penchant for fiery rulings and strong leanings toward the Second Amendment issued an injunction Friday on California's ban on ammunition magazines with more than 10 rounds. The latest ruling in the now 6-year-old legal challenge. U.S. District Court Judge Roger Benitez, a President George W. Bush appointee serving in the Southern District of California, did not hold back in his opinion on Duncan v. Bonta. For those who don't know, Duncan v. Bonta was a case. I'll explain the story behind it very briefly. A woman who owned, I believe, an AR-15 that had a standard 30-round magazine in it, heard about the fact that this passing would make her ownership of her magazines a felony overnight once the bill passed. Like, literally, her magazines owning them would make her a felon once the bill passed. And it would just be 24 hours has ticked over, you're now a felon if you still own them. That's pretty fucked, especially because she's a legal gun owner. She's never committed a crime. That's how she's able to legally own guns. And she's not done anything wrong. She's not going to do anything wrong. And she's a responsible gun owner. She doesn't deserve to be a felon because she owns a piece of plastic. At least in my opinion, she doesn't deserve to be a felon because of it. So she wrote a federal judge, the federal judge, in this case, Roger Benitez, and asked him to look over this bill and maybe appeal her situation. He responded by saying, wait, this is entirely unconstitutional, and has struck down the bill. Guns are made of plastic? Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I can show it. So, I believe policy is, as long as I very clearly show you guys that my gun is empty, and I don't break any rules of firearm safety, it should be alright to show you guys on stream, live. I think it's okay. This is empty. As you can see, there is absolutely nothing in the chamber. I'm inspecting the barrel. You can see straight down through the magwell. No magazine, no round in the chamber, absolutely nothing. This is my Glock 19. The entire bottom half of this gun, it's really hard because I'm flipped camera. The entire bottom half of this gun is plastic. Only this and the barrel and some internals are metal. For the most part, this thing is just plastic. Very little of it is metal. Your nails are nice, and I need to clip them, I know. I've been on vacation for 10 days, and I haven't been able to clip them because I didn't bring a nail clipper. My bad, guys. But yeah, this is mostly plastic, and I don't have a magazine in it because of the very thing we're going to be talking about. You see, the Glock 19, when you buy it, comes with 3 15-round magazines. Because I bought it in Florida. I'm a legal resident of Florida. And so I bought it in Florida, and it came with 3 15-round magazines. I was like, well, when I moved to Seattle, I can't have these. They're illegal in Seattle. They're illegal in Washington because they have a 10-round capacity limit. So I had to throw away those magazines, and they're Glock mags, so very cheap. It wasn't really any skin off my teeth, to be honest. I can buy new ones. In fact, today I'm going to be going to the store and buying 10-round magazines for the Glock 19. It sucks, but it's what you have to do in order for your gun to be compliant in the state. It's just how it is. It sucks, but that is how it is. The mags are illegal. Throw away. No, I flew here. I flew here. I had my guns were checked luggage. They went through TSA. If they would have literally had cops waiting for me when I picked up my case if anything there was illegal. This went through TSA, dude. These were checked luggage. They would put it through, like, x-ray machines and shit. They would, like, we literally had no mags. Likely story. You guys just want me to go to prison. You guys just want me to go to prison. Anyway. U.S. District Court Judge Roger Benitez, a President George W. Bush appointee serving in the Southern District of California, did not hold back in his opinion on Duncan v. Bonta. This case is about a California state law that makes it a crime to keep and bear common firearm magazines typically possessed for lawful purposes. Based on the text, history, and tradition of the Second Amendment, this law is clearly unconstitutional, Benitez wrote. True. It literally, by definition, is unconstitutional. And not only that, but limiting magazine capacity for legal gun owners? Guys, magazines for the vast majority of modern guns are all plastic except for one metal spring. People have mass 3D printed illegal 30 and 15 round magazines in mass and distributed them among criminal ownership. It's just plastic. It can be made with a 3D printer, a cheap one. You can make cheap plastic suppressors. Banning those is pointless. All you are doing is making it a crime for legal gun owners to own something even if they're not breaking the law with it. It should be illegal to have these things when you've already broken the law and you're using them to commit a crime, not when you're owning them legally, peacefully, and just having fun in your backyard at the range. Many people say there's no reason you should own a high-capacity magazine and a full-auto assault rifle. And I'd say, no, going to the range and full-autoing a piece of paper or a piece of steel is plenty good reason. Why should you be able to have a car that can go faster than is street legal? Why should that be allowed? Because why not? Because maybe you've got your own property where it is legal, and you're not going to hurt anybody, and you're responsible enough to make sure that's the case. Why should normal, non-criminal people be punished for the ownership of something that you have to commit a crime for it to be an immoral thing? A lot of people talk about access, and at this point, I think it's a pretty agreed-upon fact that there's too many guns at this point to actually, like, get rid of them all and make it so criminals can't access them at this point. However, we talk about access to the guns being an issue, and like from criminals, and that if we like cut off the influx of guns, then maybe over time we can fix the problem. And that just doesn't really make any sense. Why don't we look at the actual root of the problem? What is the issue? Let's look at the actual CDC gun violence statistics. According to the provisional CDC data, 48,117 people died by guns in 2022, an average of one person every 11 minutes. That's averaging it out. That's obviously not the case. Like, there's not a person getting shot every 11 minutes in America. That is If you know what averaging is over a year, then you know. The overall gun death rate declined by 1.9% in 2022 from 2021. While this overall decrease in the gun death rate was small in relative terms, 713 fewer people died by guns in 2022 compared to 2021. This provisional data illustrates that 2020 spike in gun violence seen during the COVID-19 pandemic has not returned to pre-pandemic levels. Overall, including this new provisional data for 2022 gun deaths are up 21% by 2019. I want the specifics, though. I'm looking for which ones are suicides, which ones are mass shootings. Here, let me see. It's actually listed in this article. Gun Violence Archive. Here we go. This is actually data for this year. Number of gun deaths in 2023 from the Gun Violence Archive. Total number of gun violence cases, of gun violence deaths, all causes combined, this year so far, 32,003 so far this year. The amount of them that were homicides, murders, unintentional accidental shootings, which make up the vast majority of this stat, by the way, and DGU, I don't know what that stands for. That's a legal term. You guys will have to tell me. 14,183 of the 32,000. And then 17,000, the majority, quite strong the majority, suicide. So suicide and accidents make up the vast majority, and roughly a quarter is murder. And only 1.7% of that are mass shootings that are not just like 3 people got shot and injured. Because if we look at the mass shootings here, total number of mass shootings this year, let's look at what they consider a mass shooting in 2023. Victims injured, 1 killed, 3 won. 6 victims injured, 0 killed. 0 killed, 4 injured. 3 killed, 1 injured. 1 killed, 4 injured. This is bad, but this is not what people imagine when they hear 519 mass shootings have happened in America this year. Those of you guys in chat who have heard that stat and are like generally anti-gun, can you admit that when you heard that 519 mass shootings had happened this year, you were thinking of like more than 10 people maybe being at least injured? The truth is that the vast majority of gun violence that is happening in this country that is considered a mass shooting is gang violence. And reducing the guns and punishing legal gun owners does not solve the problem. The truth is, we have to go to the true root of the problem. The thing that us leftists have been talking about for so long. A lot of it is economic disenfranchisement and lack of access to healthcare for mental conditions. Let's talk about financial disenfranchisement. A lot of gangs operate in the inner city, in what you would call a not good neighborhood that has a mostly non-white population. You see, in America, public schools are funded by property tax, which means the nicer the properties are in the area around a school, the nicer the houses are, the more money is going to the school that the kids that live in those houses are zoned for. Which means if you live in a really bad neighborhood and you're zoned for that school, then you're probably going to go to a pretty shitty school with teachers that don't give a fuck about you, with really crappy textbooks that have been replaced in a long time. It's pretty much, you've been pretty much predetermined to not be able to succeed based on all the hurdles that have just been put in front of you completely unfairly. And this is the fault of redlining. You can actually look at modern day economic disparities in like big cities all around America and look at the maps of where banks said that black people could live and where they couldn't live, and you can see the borders are just there still. They're just there. They're right. They're just the same. Like you can put the maps on top of each other and they're the same. It's just there. The effects have been very long lasting, and it's actually not been that long, but still. And so if you are a young black or Hispanic kid living in the inner city in a bad neighborhood going to a shitty school. And when you walk to school every day, you're walking past guys that are in a gang who are like threatening you or making jokes at you. Maybe they try to be friendly with you. Maybe they rob you. Maybe they bully you. Or maybe they don't do anything to you, but that's what you see. They've got a nice car. They've got guns in their pockets. They look cool. They've got women. Maybe like you watch TV and you just think, maybe getting involved with crime is the only way forward. I know it sounds very like simple and it sounds stupid, but seriously, like imagine yourself in that situation, a young teen boy, 13, 14 years old, you're black, you don't really feel like you've got that many opportunities because of the neighborhood you were born into. Your zip code has basically determined your future, it feels like, and the amount of work you'd have to put in, you don't even know how much work you'd have to put in is how much work you have to put in, because you don't have the generational knowledge from parents who went to college that can tell you how to apply for college, how to get scholarships. Like that shit is just beyond a possibility for you. And so maybe getting involved with people who rob drug dealers and rob convenience stores and end up in shootouts is the most reasonable option for you. It is obvious that the issues that us leftists are talking about, that the working class in this country are facing, that marginalized, like minority groups in this country are facing, tie directly in with gun violence. If you eliminate these issues, if you eliminate that issue, the economic disenfranchisement of non-white people in the inner city, you get rid of 99% of gun homicides. Mass shootings make up less than 10% of gun homicides. Let's talk about suicide. This is a true stat. Having a gun in your home makes it far more likely, by like an insane factor, that you will successfully commit suicide. Like, by a massive factor. The statistics do not lie. They just don't. I am a pro-gun person, and I am not going to pretend that's not true. But suicide is an issue rooted in not having access to free mental health care. I have friends who go to therapy, and they, like, say, I don't know if I can afford to pay my therapy bill for this week. I might, like, not be able to go to therapy anymore. I might get dropped by my therapist. That is the state of our country's healthcare. If we solve that problem, I guarantee you the rate of gun suicides and suicides as a whole is going to drop astronomically. Isn't it interesting how all of the gun deaths and gun injuries on these stats are all related directly to issues the left already advocates in regards to? If we solve the root of these issues, the guns don't need to be taken away from legal, good-natured people who just want to have fun at their local range and in their backyard and make some fun YouTube videos or something, shooting like a rocket launcher at a truck on their own private property. That should be legal. If they are a legal gun owner, that should be legal. Let's get into the process for being a legal gun owner. Now, let's talk about keeping guns out of the hands of criminals. You see, I don't think there should be legal means for criminals to get their hands on guns. And I mean already criminals. Like, you're not a criminal if you go and buy the gun and you haven't done the crime yet. I'm talking about people who've already committed a crime, felons and what have you. I'm going to use the state of Florida as an example because I'm from Florida. That is where I bought my gun. I'm a legal resident of Florida. I even got my concealed weapons license in Florida. I took the test. I got my range training for it, and I am now, obviously they have constitutional carry there, so you don't need it, but on top of that, I've got a concealed weapons license in Florida, so I can super duper conceal carry in Florida. I'm also going to get my concealed carry permit here in Washington, because holy fuck was it a fun class to take to get my concealed weapons license. It was actually pretty damn fun, and I'm actually excited to do it again for Washington. I might even be able to do it on stream, though. I have to look into the legality of that, but if I can do the test on stream to get my license, that would be so cool. But yeah, anyway, if we look at these statistics, you'll see that the vast majority of gun violence is committed with handguns. You would think it would be with like large round capacity rifles that can shoot at a high rate and are very well stabilized, but no, it's mostly handguns. It's why when you go to a Republican state like Florida that has a pretty easy like path to getting a gun, they have the biggest restrictions on handgun sales. Because even in those Republican super pro-gun states with those super pro-gun politicians, even they recognize that it's not rifles that are the issue with crime, it's handguns like mine. Not mine, but, you know, handguns like the one I have. Glock 19s are very commonly used in crime because they're somewhat concealable. Usually it's like little, like, pocket revolvers and stuff like that. And unfortunately, large round capacity, high fire rate rifles have become the main focus of the media's hatred of like guns and the idea that we need to ban them, because they are what have been used in the most media attended to mass shootings. Guys, I've spoken to a lot of people who are anti-gun that are on the left, and within a couple of sentences, it becomes clear that not only have they never shot a gun, but they literally don't know anything about them. And a good example of this is Joe Biden. If you know anything about guns, then all I need to do is play this clip, and you'll cringe. This is not too far off from the level of messaging Democrats tend to engage in across the board around guns. If you have any level of gun literacy, you are going to cringe at what Biden says here.
The third change, we want to treat pistols modified with stabilizing braces with the seriousness they deserve. A stabilizing brace shook in a pencil essentially makes that pistol a hell of a lot more accurate than a mini rifle. As a result, it's more lethal, effectively turning it into a short-barreled rifle. That's what the alleged shooter in Boulder appears to have done. I want to be clear that these modifications to firearms that make them more lethal should be subject to the National Firearms Act. The National Firearms Act requires that a potential owner pay $200 fee and submit their name and other identifying information to the Justice Department, just as they would if they went out.
He's telling people to narc on their friends if they see them using an illegal gun modification at the range or something. So he just argued that using a brace, a little attachment onto the back of a pistol that lets you shoulder it like this basically and make it a bit more accurate, what makes it more lethal, and thus it should be subject to the bans they put in place on particularly lethal guns. It makes no sense. All guns are lethal. If you train enough with a Glock, you'll be just as accurate as a novice with a pistol brace. Like, a pistol brace doesn't make the Glock more effective at much of a further range than it is from a pretty well-trained person. At one point, this is actually a different quote. It's actually funny that they played this specific quote as the first one that comes up when this is the actual quote that he amended there. This is the one that I wanted to show, but the YouTube pushes you the one where he doesn't fuck up. Here's the one where he's speaking off the cuff.
Harder for people to buy stabilized braces. Put a pistol on a brace, it turns into a gun. Makes it more, you can have a higher caliber weapon, a higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun.
He said it turns it into a gun that can have a higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun if you put a pistol brace on it. If you put a brace on it that lets you shoulder the gun, it makes it so it can shoot higher calibers. At one point, hold on, Joe Biden on 22 and 9mm ammo. You see, there's a reason why I want to get into making gun content. It's because all of the gun content that's coming up right now, or everything that's coming up when I search this right now, are all multi-million view right-wing gun channels debunking Joe Biden and like Democrats' blatantly false claims about guns. Guys, guns are not like when it comes to making claims about what gun parts do, it is literally a science. It is literally math. Like, they are hard edges of plastic and steel and metal. They do what they do. The parts do what they do. They attach to what they do, or to where they do, and they do what they do. There's no subjectiveness to what these gun parts do. So when a Democrat makes a false claim about what a part on a gun does, a Democrat politician who is behind a policy that will make it a felony to own that gun part, that is a fucking problem. And a lot of Americans see that as a problem, and it scares the fuck out of them and makes them very, very averse to voting blue. Because they don't want to end up becoming a felon because the guy they voted for decided, you know what, federally, your magazines are all now a felony. Go get your 10 round mags. Sorry. Throw away your magazines. Throw all of them away, or you're a felon. And then we'll take all your guns away and burn them. Yeah. It's not good. So to give you another idea of what I'm talking about here, this is a pretty right-wing gun channel, as most of them tend to be, called Garand Thumb, who did a video debunking Joe Biden's claim that 9mm will blow the lungs out of the body.
Up to down, okay. Then the 6th graders won't mess with you anymore.
Guys, you gotta see this.
What is that?
9mm bullet blows the lung out of the body. So the idea of these high caliber.
Joe Biden claims that a 9mm bullet blows the lung out of the body, and that the only thing that is reasonable to use for self-defense is 22 LR. He didn't say 22 LR, he said 22. But yeah, he unironically thinks that 22 is the only acceptable self-defense round. If the Democrats have their way with gun policy, we will literally only be allowed to shoot 22 pea shooters out of guns with wood that don't look tactical. Like, all tactical looking guns, regardless of their function, will be banned. That's all they care about. Like, hold on, let's see. Here, let me see if I can find top 10 dumbest anti-gun quotes by politicians. This is the kind of shit that pushes a massive amount of Americans, famously very pro-gun, away from supporting Democrats, which is, we need as many people voting Democrat as possible. But this means the Democrats need to amend their positions and their rhetoric around guns. Legal, responsible, non-crime committing gun owners should not be punished by their ownership of the guns becoming a crime for no reason other than, what if criminals use it to commit crime that's already a crime? It makes no sense. It's just to appease people who are afraid of being victims of gun violence.
In February,
it's a band-aid solution that's not even a solution, because nobody wants to acknowledge the real problems, which are largely caused by capitalism.
Introduced the Assault Weapons Ban and Law Enforcement Protection Act of 2007. It would regulate semi-automatic assault weapons.
Hey, Cucker.
Including weapons that have pistol grips, a forward grip, and something called a barrel shroud. Weapons with a barrel shroud would be regulated. What's a barrel shroud, and why should we regulate it?
I think the more important thing is that it also would have had banned the large capacity clips that Colin Ferguson had used, and also the killer.
Okay. But I read the legislation. I'm sorry, I read the legislation, and it said that it would regulate barrel shrouds. What's a barrel shroud, and why should we regulate that?
The guns that were chosen back in those days were basically the guns that most gangs and criminals were using to kill our police officers. I'm not saying it was the best bill, but that was the best bill they could get out at that particular time. I actually don't know what a barrel shroud is. I believe it's a shoulder thing that goes up.
And she wants to prevent terrorists from obtaining this rifle and is urging New York State lawmakers to pass the Anti-Terrorism and Aviation Protection Act, an act that the National Rifle Association will likely fight, claiming the right to bear arms.
Come on. This is crazy. You can't certainly use this for hunting.
But some of these bullets, as you saw, have an incendiary device on the tip of it, which is a heat-seeking device.
No, basically what they're showing is a bolt action 50 caliber rifle, and the rounds she's talking about are tracer rounds or incendiary rounds that light up. Basically they just glow. They get really hot and they glow with a bright light when you shoot it. At night, you can just kind of see where the bullet goes, and it's a bolt action, so it's like that's how you like chamber another round for another shot, and then you've got to like sight in, and it requires like a goddamn tripod in order to be able to shoot. And so they're like, what if terrorists... Okay, what an impractical gun to do terrorism with. I'm sorry. I don't know. I guess you could shoot down a plane with it, but like you could get you could get one of those if you're going to do terrorism. Yeah, this is actually what tracer rounds do, guys. That's gonna be copyright. You can't keep playing all these movie clips, god damn it.
Size. If you do, you could cook it at the same time.
Wait, what? What'd she say?
So you don't shoot deer with a bullet that size. If you do, you could cook it at the same time.
So that's a very common argument they like to make. A lot of anti-gun like Democrats will argue that 5.56 or 7.62 rounds would literally obliterate a deer, or they'll see a gun that looks like it goes full auto or shoots like brrr, and they'll say, you're just gonna evaporate the deer if you shoot it with that. And it's like, when I shoot my AR-15, it shoots one 5.56 round, and if I hit them in the heart, it drops. Just like if I did it with your grandpappy's old wooden and steel hunting rifle, it's just because it looks like a tactical rifle doesn't mean it just like it's completely fit for that. I mean, that's just hyperbole, to be fair. No, I have literally heard that word for word. The quote, if you take an AR-15 hunting, you're a piece of shit. You can't even salvage the deer after that because it would just be evaporated. I have heard that quote countless times from anti-gun people because they don't know that modern AR-15s that you can get in America can't go full auto because we banned those guns for access from the average citizen back in the 80s with the assault weapons ban of the 80s. The only like full auto like rifles like that or full auto weapons like that that are around and available for sale have to be bought through they're like a rare amount. They're like a slowly dwindling population because they can't be like produced here and given out here and sold here. So like you have to do private sale for the most part, and they're like really expensive. Like if you want to buy like an M16 that can go full auto, bro, that shit's gonna cost you. And you have to have, I don't think you have to have the permit, because like the guns themselves are grandfathered in. The guns themselves that were bought and manufactured and like distributed among the people prior to the 1980s gun ban, the assault weapons ban, themselves have been grandfathered in. So those guns specifically can be sold through private purchase. I don't know if FFLs can sell them. They probably can, but don't take my word for it. No, Zan? You need to do a Form 4 to buy an automatic rifle for private sale for those grandfathered in guns? That might be the case, but I don't think it requires a background check because it's just private sale. But you do have to file... Yeah, you do. You do have to file out the form because the gun has to be tracked, right? But you don't need to do like the background check because it's a private sale and all that stuff. But those are the guns. Like, that's it. Like, they're a dwindling population of very rapidly increasing in value firearms due to the 1980s gun firearm or assault weapons ban. Okay, we can't keep playing all the fucking movie clips, dude. Anyway, it really does upset me that so many Democrats just resign themselves to completely demonizing and villainizing legal, safe, responsible gun owners. There's a clip from C-SPAN here I want to play as well, where a lawmaker who is a Republican and probably a piece of shit actually says some just objectively true things about guns. Listen, everything this Republican lawmaker says over this Zoom call here is about things that are just factually true in regards to the functionality of guns. And the response from the Democrat, like, lawmakers is, like, insulting if you're somebody who knows anything about guns, owns guns, and is, like, a responsible legal gun owner who has gone through numerous steps to ensure that you are a safe, responsible, reasonable, legal gun owner, including going to classes to best educate yourself around the legality of the gun ownership, when it is safe and responsible to use it for the defense of yourself and your home, etc. Like, it's insulting. Let's watch it.
Expand the court, take away your constitutional rights under the Second Amendment. Well, we just heard that that's exactly what the Democrats want to do here today and in the House in this coming week. On Monday, Biden stated a 9mm bullet blows the lung out of the body, and I quote, "So the idea of these high caliber weapons is of there's simply no rational basis."
To give you an idea, guys, my handgun is 9mm. It is not high caliber. I got it because it's actually very stable. I'm very accurate with it, and it's very comfortable to shoot. It is by no means high caliber. 9mm is like the lower end of pistol caliber power ammo. And it's the caliber of the caliber itself doesn't really, like, that's not what makes it have a lot of recoil and a lot of power. That's just, like, how big of a hole it leaves. The amount of power it has, the velocity, is, like, what makes it, like, more powerful, if that's, like, the way you're describing it. Like, people think caliber and they think that means, like, how strong, how fast it is, but no, that's just how big the hole it makes is.
Basis for it in terms of thinking about self-protection. So you can't protect yourself with a 9mm. I guess, according to Biden, only a 22 round ammunition would be sufficient. Then the White House walked back that statement and said he supports a ban on the sale of assault weapons, which there's no such thing, and high capacity.
Yeah, assault weapons isn't an actual, like, term in the gun, like, world of gun manufacturing. Assault weapons is a political term that was developed by anti-gun people to refer to guns that fit the very arbitrary standards they have for what are guns that should be banned. So AR-15s would count, any gun that goes full auto counts, any gun that, like, looks tactical counts, basically. There's also no such thing as a self-defense gun. I mean, if you use it for self-defense, then it's a self-defense gun. If it is designated as your gun for self-defense, then it's your self-defense gun. This is my self-defense gun. I take it to the range and I practice with it, but, like, practically, if it's ever used outside of the range, it would be used in self-defense. I'm not going to use it for crime.
Capacity magazines, high-capacity magazines. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Yesterday, Speaker Pelosi, speaking at an anti-gun rally in San Francisco, stated, "We will have a hearing markup on an assault weapon ban. Their plans and their intentions are clear. They want to take away law-abiding citizens' ability to purchase the firearm of their choice, and don't let them fool you that they are not attempting to take away your ability to purchase handguns. They're using the magazine ban to do it."
Yep.
Last year in 2021, the Glock 19 was the highest sold handgun in the United States.
That's
it
what I
comes
have.
with a 15-round magazine. That gun would be banned. Right here.
Well, no, it's not banned, but it's like the out-of-the-box magazines are banned. You have to get rid of your magazines and trash them, and then you have to get yourself a magazine that's compliant. So when I was in Florida, I had to trash all my 15-round mags, and now I have to buy 10-round mags, which are like these little pithy, like, 19 mags that have, like, just a base that takes up where the rest of the mags would be, and it's like, it sucks, but, you know, it's what you got to do if you want it to be like compliant.
In front of me, I have a Sig Sauer P226. Comes with a 21-round magazine. This gun would be banned. Here's a 12-round magazine. This magazine would be banned under this current bill. It doesn't fit because this gun was made for a 20-round, 21-round magazine. This gun would be banned.
The only thing, oh, the horror, well, like, dude, owning the gun would be a felony. Prancing Goldfish. The SIG P229 is like, or P226, I think he said, is like a $600 gun. They would just overnight make ownership of it a felony. No, he put the gun on screen. Oh, you're making fun of the people upset that he put the gun on screen. Okay, sorry. I apologize. There's a delay to the chat and to what you guys see, so I assume that when you respond to something in chat in real time, it's to what I'm saying. And I still haven't gotten used to the fact that you guys have a 5-second delay and that what you're saying can't possibly be in response to what I just said.
Under this bill.
No, it's my bad.
Sig Sauer 320. It takes a 20-round magazine. Here's a 12-round magazine that would be banned. It doesn't fit because it would be banned. This gun would be banned under this bill. Here's a gun I carry every single day to protect myself, my family, my wife, my home. This is a XL Sig Sauer P365. Comes
This
with
guy
a
likes Sig.
15-round magazine. Here's a 7-round magazine, which would be less than what it would be lawful.
For those who don't know, this guy is, within the gun world, a man of culture. SIGs are very nice. He is a man of culture.
Under this bill, if this bill were to become law, it doesn't fit. So this gun would be banned.
I hope the gun is not loaded.
I'm at my house. I can do whatever I want with my guns.
The Democrat politicians, they didn't respond, they didn't listen to anything he said about how these magazine limit bans would ban a bunch of pistols. They just say, I hope that gun's not loaded. His finger's not on the trigger. Like, they're so unaware of gun safety, they think the presence of a gun being loaded is inherently, like, too dangerous to do. Like, you can't do that in your house. Your gun's loaded in your house? What the fuck? Like, that they are that afraid of guns. I understand. Guns are kind of scary. But for God's sakes, try to familiarize yourself with them enough to, like, not make a fool of yourself if you're going to be behind policy legislation around guns. We've been talking a lot today about how many instances of gun violence have occurred. So, every year, we get around 30 to 35,000 gun deaths, roughly, in the last, like, decade. That's the ballpark area that we tend to be in. That is a lot of gun deaths. Here's the thing, though. If we look at the stats for the amount of defensive shootings that have occurred in America per year for the last 10 years, the average is 1.67 million. Defensive shootings, where people use their firearms to defend themselves from a lethal threat, and they then went to court, and that was deemed a lawful shooting where they had to defend themselves with lethal force. And trust me, I've taken my CWL class. The prosecutors will go after you with anything they can if you do anything wrong in the case of a defensive shooting. You have to meet a very high standard for your defensive shooting to be ruled lawful. And regardless, if you do a defensive shooting, you're getting cuffed and going to jail for a couple days while things get sorted out. Everything's kind of determined. What percent of those threats were guns? Well, as I said, 32,000 gun deaths have happened this year. 1.67 million people used guns defensively. And the majority of those cases, as you can tell by the stats, aren't lethal. People who are defending themselves with their guns, these legal gun owners doing defensive shootings, aren't killing the people who are trying to kill them. They shoot to incapacitate like they've been trained to, because you have to take a class to conceal carry, and a lot of these are conceal carry shootings too. And they know that you shoot until the threat has stopped, not to kill. Trust me. Legally, you shoot until the threat has stopped, not to kill. If you take 3 shots and the person you're shooting has fallen onto the ground and you take a 4th shot, that 4th shot could will make you a felon and will send you to prison. If the prosecutor can prove you took that 4th shot when the guy was on the ground and was no longer a threat to you, you've committed murder. And you will go to prison for murder. Even on your own property. The Castle Doctrine only applies when you're defending yourself against I'm blanking on the word. A imminent threat to your life. What if it looks really badass? The law has to consider that. No. Violent. Yeah, sorry. I'm fucking brain fogged right now. I'm sorry. I did just fly like 6 hours and arrive at midnight here and then like go to bed and then stream at noon, okay? I'm tired, okay? Anyway, a lot of people use their guns defensively. And something that I think a lot of you guys need to consider is that a lot of people assume that they're using their guns defensively against other people with guns. And that's a lot of cases, to be fair. That is a lot of cases. However, another case where you are justified in using lethal force is when you're outnumbered. This isn't a super common occurrence, but let's use this as an example. This guy's trying to steal the car from the driveway. I don't want to get, like, memed by YouTube or Twitch, but, the video goes on for a bit. They beat the ever-living shit out of him. He manages to call to his wife, who screams from inside, "I'm calling the police," and they run away, and they get into the car, and they drive off. But yeah, pretty scary situation. When you are outnumbered like that, it is a death sentence. No one is going to win a fight where they're outnumbered in any realistic scenario with a knife, with a fist, with a bat. Doesn't matter. When you're outnumbered by 2 or more people, it's just your chances have dropped to basically nothing. You're not John Wick. You're not fucking Old Boy. You're just gonna get your fucking ass pounded. The only thing that gives you a surviving chance in a situation like this, where you've caught somebody trying to steal your car, and their response to that is, "We're gonna beat you to death in your driveway," because that is not an unlikely scenario. The only thing that may save your life there is a gun. That is the only thing that equalizes the situation to the point where you have a fighting chance, is a gun. And look at this. Does this look like a bad neighborhood? Like look at this. This is a nice house in a decent neighborhood. And this guy was just in his garage, probably working on some bullshit, and some people pulled up in a car to steal his car, and then when he caught them, their response was to jump him in a group and start beating him down. He is lucky to be alive. If his wife wasn't home, he would be a corpse in that driveway, beaten to death. They would have stomped his head. They were stomping his head when his wife started screaming. He had seconds to live at that point. The existence of guns isn't the violent threat that you need guns to defend against. Simply being outnumbered is a lethal enough threat that you would need a gun to defend yourself from. That's what I worry about way more than someone pulling a gun or a knife on me, is getting outnumbered. That's what I'm afraid of. Like, that's way more likely. If someone's going to rob you, they're going to do it in a group. Because people just immediately yield when they know they're outnumbered. And the only scenario where you might get out of that alive is if you have a gun. You don't even have to use it. You can just show that you have a gun, and that might be enough to defuse the situation. You want to use as little force as possible. That's the thing. Legally as well, and morally. If you ever have to use your gun defensively, and I'm saying using it in any way, even if you don't shoot it, you want to escalate force as little as possible. You meet them where they are. So if they're just kind of in your face screaming at you, saying, "Give me your money, give me your money," it's in your distance away, it's probably worth just showing you have a gun, saying no, and trying to get out of the situation. If they pursue you, and they have weapons, and they're pursuing you, and they're not letting you leave even though they know you have a gun, that's when you can draw your gun and say, "Step back, drop your weapon, get away from me, get away from me." Indicate very clearly, as loudly as possible. Try to get as many witnesses as possible to see what's happening and to know what's going on. You want lots of witnesses. Lots and lots of witnesses. Scream loudly, "Get away from me, get away from me." Try to find a way to escape, and shooting should be your last option, and you shoot to disable and to end whatever threat is happening to you, not to kill. If you end up like shooting a single more round than you are legally in the right to, the prosecutor will do everything in their power to get you in a federal prison on murder charges. Hell, they'll try to get you on the death penalty if they can. Prosecutors are ambitious. That said, let's finish it off with a Marx quote, because I feel like there's still a lot of lefties in chat that might be iffy on guns. Let's finish it off with that classic Marx quote. Karl Marx, "Under no pretext should arms and ammunition be surrendered. Any attempt to disarm the workers must be frustrated, fought against, by force if necessary."